introduce you to Laine, who is a core member of New York City Ballet. And fun fact, Laine and I have known each other for a pretty good amount of time already, right? Like we go way back to the time when I was seeing clients when I lived in New York City and you actually came to my apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was like 18 or 19, and that was like, I don't know.
When we first started working together, it was also, I think I had really just started in private practice, so it was very refreshing for me to work with a who, again, at the level had such a balanced and already a healthy relationship towards food. Were there ever any challenges that you faced that you felt you overcame?
Well, I mean, as a student, I feel like I was at the school for like 3 years and like 2 months, because I got into the company for at School of American Ballet, and I know at first it was like very normal. Like I came from a very normal household in Texas, and I was kind of just like that kid. I was dancing all the time when I was younger. I would like leave school for dance and like always dancing, and like it was always kind of like I could eat whatever I wanted, like you're so tiny, and I was growing. Like, I mean, I was like, I didn't have my like final growth spurt until I was like 14 or something. Like it took me a while to like actually like really grow, but like it was always like I never really had any like real thought around it, like kind of like no stigmas or anything, especially when I was like at my home studio in Texas. But then I remember when I went to like the School of American Ballet summer course, that was kind of the first time I experienced like kind of like people like looking in the mirror all the time, like that kind of situation. And I remember like obviously it rubbed off on me a little bit, and then I took that back to like my studio for like a little while, because I wasn't there very long before I went to SAB. And then like SAB, my class was like, we were really chill when we were younger. Like everybody, like, I started in B2, and so I was like 13, just turned 14 when I went to the school. And then like as you get older, like kind of like that, like there might have been like I kind of noticed other girls like maybe struggling or like having like like bad body image or whatever. And like it didn't really like start to like sink into me. Like I didn't really fully start to feel that kind of like self-consciousness until I was like older in the school, like maybe around 16 or like 15 or 16, because then I was like starting to mature and like all of those things. And so like that kind of like I've always been so self-critical of myself, and like like as all dancers are, we're all like our biggest critic. And so for me it's always just been like getting over like just that self-consciousness. There's some times where I don't like feel the best that I can, like I don't feel like I look the best that I can, so then I'm like, like just like that's always an obstacle for me, like getting over it in my head.
Yeah, I think you raise a couple really great points that I just want to review. One thing is summer intensives. Summer intensives can so often be a starting point of where we come from our home studios and then we're put into just a more intensive environment. And no matter where you are, it's usually a first time that they are away from home, and that they're either dependent on themselves for meals or dependent on the dorms for meals. And I think that is such a common exposure to the stigmas, like you said, in the dance world, being obsessed with your body or being obsessed with food or health, or having to eat healthy and having to be restricted in some way or another. And then another thing you said was just the idea that we are our own worst critics. I mean, I can relate to that so much myself, in the sense of, just for me, I'm a perfectionist, and also my history as a dancer, we have to rely on the mirror so often for progression of ourselves as an artist. There's no way around it that you're going to be self-critical, right? That's how we grow as a dancer, how we grow in the actual career that we're in. Was there ever a specific time that you can pinpoint in your training? Like maybe it was during one of those summer intensives, or maybe it was when you actually started at the school more full time. Was there a time that you can actually pinpoint that your food choices played a role in how you actually performed?
Well, for me, that definitely didn't come until I was dancing in the company, because like I said, when I was younger, it was very like, I mean, you like a classic like ballet studio, we would take class, and then I was in like they had a little like company, or like junior company situation, and like we would dance till like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and like then I would just like get dinner at home or whatever. And then at the school it was like you did all your classes like morning, afternoon, and then you're done, and then you just eat lunch, and it's normal.
Right.
But then I definitely, like, obviously had to start thinking about it more intensely when I got into the company. And like sometimes even now I'm like, I don't, like, I hope this is like, I'm trying things out. Like sometimes I feel like I still don't even know exactly like what is the best thing for me. But I would say like maybe my second year in the company, maybe like my second year in the court, when I was like doing every show and every season, and usually dancing to like, because a lot of times like when you're younger you do like the last ballet, like it's always the last ballet is always the biggest ballet, so like if you're like all, they need everybody. But for me, I like would be put into like the smaller things and the bigger things, so I was always on. And so like struggling like or dealing with like full days of rehearsal, and then the show at night, and then like having dinner after the show, and then like waking up in the morning and making sure I like start to fuel myself right for the day. Like that, I would say like maybe around like my second year in the company.
That's a good point, though. First of all, we have to think about the demands of being in the core, right? I mean, they're so exponentially high.
Yeah.
That you are pretty much, like you said, dancing in every show. You're needed for almost every performance. The realization, like that the foods that you're choosing to plate is going to impact you on how you perform throughout the day. You start to realize that your choices, your food choices, actually start building up because there's not a lot of recovery time. You'll have classes, you'll have some rehearsals, then you have a performance late at night, then you're with 10 a.m. to start all over. You don't have a lot of recovery time. So when I hear that some students are attempting like certain types of diets like keto or intermittent fasting, they're just not practical for the actual schedule of a professional dancer. And I think that's super important for students to realize, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you brought up like all those random diets, like I've never really like been for those things. Like I just am like kind of everything, like, I mean, I saw you like gain info from you, and like that has like definitely like shaped the way I like go about my meals and snacks and everything. And I mean, as like an inside like look into the company, like I don't think there's many people, or if any, that I know of that do any sort of like those kinds of paleo, keto, whatever, you know what I mean? Because everyone knows that you need like every one of those nutrients to like really perform.
We see more of the experimenting and even the more disordered eating in the younger students who feel that they have to do this in order to reach that next step. And the truth is, it's so the opposite, because like even said, you didn't even hit your last growth spurt until what, 15. Those years are so important to your development as a dancer. I mean, those are the strength of your bones. It's all so related. So I think it's really important for a younger dancer that at your level, at your stage of the game, your food choices start to, I mean, they need to fuel you. It's not just about reaching some body aesthetic. It's about actually being able to do what you have to do, and you're on the stage.
It's so true. Like so true. Like so for example, the company is streaming Diamonds tonight, and I do the demis and diamonds, and that is like known. It's just known for being like one of the hardest things. I always make sure, like when we're doing jewels, that I'm like on top of it. I'm like, I got to make sure I feel myself at this time with this. Like it's so important.
How have you been able to keep a positive mindset towards body image as a dancer?
I mean, for me, I've always tried to remember that like everybody's different. I'm like, I really try, I have to think about it a lot of the time to not compare myself. And like a lot of times like that is just, it happens in like in the ballet world, in a company, like the ballet masters, the director, like whoever it is, other dancers, they like it's just the nature to like compare. And like for me, I'm always like this is like my own body, like I'm not her. I
Mhm.
don't dance like her. Like we need different things. I have to like, I always like that's just my main thing is comparison, like to just know that I'm like who I am, and like maybe right now in this moment, like I'm not perfect, but like I can work to change that.
Like I said before, there's this fine line in the dance world of using the mirror for good and then using it for what's going to eventually hinder you. So then it's like you have this hurricane of comparisons plus perfectionism
Mhm.
plus um, insecurity, a little bit of insecurity, like especially as you're training, right, pre-professionally. So it's like this hurricane of emotions that can cause
Mhm.
to develop those negative feelings towards their body. So it's really a matter of like developing this inner dialogue that's like, she looks like that. I don't look like that, but this is what works for my body. Like, this is who I am. This, like you said, everyone's different, and finding the qualities and especially the abilities in class as you're dancing
Mhm.
is super important for just
Yeah.
the sustainability of your career.
Mhm.
So now more of the fun stuff. Can you walk us through a bit of a day with like your dancing and your eating, maybe when you're in season?
I'll do like a like kind of like an in season. I like usually I like to give myself a lot of time in the morning. I'm not the type of person that can just get up and run out the door and like
Mhm.
grab a bar and like whatever. Um, I usually like we have class at 10:30 every day. So I'll usually like get up around 8:15, 8:30, or sometimes even 8. Like if I've had like a really late night, then I'll sleep a little bit longer, but I try to give myself as much sleep as I can so that I have like a decent amount of time in the morning. But yeah, I wake up, I like to have like a little like warm lemon ginger water situation. I feel like that really like helps like my digestion. Yeah. And a lot of times I'm not hungry as soon as I wake up, especially because my nights are so late. So like when I give myself that like 20, 30 minutes before like with that before I start eating, then I like develop an appetite. And then I'll have like coffee and breakfast, and that's usually like I love like toast with peanut butter and banana, or toast with like eggs and like peanut butter on my toast, or like yogurt with granola and berries, or like apple. I love apple and yogurt. And then class at 10:30. A lot of times I end up having rehearsal right after class, which would be 11:30. And so depending on how long the rehearsal is, if it's like a 2-hour rehearsal, I'll make sure I have like a bar in my bag, because when we have our 5-minute break, I'm like, I know I'm gonna need a snack. And then into the afternoon, most of the time I'll have like my rehearsals, uh and like usually have like kind of more of a break around like 2 or 3 o'clock. So that's like when I'll have like a actual lunch. But even then, sometimes it's not an actual lunch. It might just be like a bigger snack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love to make like tuna salad, or salmon salad with like canned salmon and tuna crackers. I like a smoothie too.
Mhm.
I love a good like packed smoothie, and sometimes I'll bring some like granola and put that on top of it. And then usually I end up having more rehearsals, and then I'll have like a pre-show snack. And then after the show, which is like I'll usually get home around 10:30
Mhm.
ish, I'll have dinner. So a lot of times when I get home, I'm like pretty hungry. I'm like, I know I need to eat something. I know I need to replenish like my muscles.
So
Sometimes I cave and like order food if I'm really tired.
I hear from many dancers about the adrenaline rush post show as being really tough with the recovery meal.
Yeah,
Yet,
it is.
yet
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how important that meal is. So I'm so happy that you are getting it in. Just because, again, like I said earlier, especially in season, there's
Mhm.
not a long period of time for recovery. One thing that you said that's not doesn't even have anything to do with food was the fact that you are letting yourself sleep. I think that sleep goes
Mhm.
unnoticed as playing such a huge role in your body's recovery.
Mhm.
Sometimes, as dancers, we tend to think that we're robots in a way, like,
Yeah.
and we have to realize that every day is different, and how we feel one day may be different than another day. And
Mhm.
for example, for this is like you have a very tough week of shows and of rehearsals. Very intense activity is going to suppress someone's appetite to a certain agree. So I'll see dancers who even though they really need it during those week shows, I see them struggle with actually getting in enough fuel to fuel
Yeah.
themselves. But then the week after, they'll be like fast and like
Yeah.
getting recovery. So I think
Mhm.
it's important to realize that hunger and fullness totally ebbs and flows. You really have to be on top of making sure you know how your food choices are going to fuel you in class.
Say like we just in our last season that we did our winter season, we did Swan Lake at the end of the, well, it was like we did 2 weeks of the of like Swan Lake at the end of the season, and it was always like I did first act. It was the first time in my company life that I wasn't a second act swan, and that was like really weird. But so I was like a villager in first act, and then I would have all of second act off, and then like an intermission before doing third act, and then fourth act. I was a swan in fourth act though, and so that was like more than an hour of like waiting in the dressing room. And so like obviously at that point it's like 9 o'clock, and of course I'm gonna get hungry. So I would like have a snack in between then, like in between those 2 times. And also because like first act was like not as much dancing, and then third act and fourth act was like more.
That's just how it just ebbs and flows. Swan Lake is like the absolute most perfect example of just ballet that I would find it very difficult for any dancer to get through without needing some mid performance snack, because it's very long and it's very intense. So we spoke about your post performance, which can sometimes be tough, but you, for the most part, really try and get that recovery meal in, which is very important. So I like that. Just to really close out everything, Laine, how would you define what a healthy dancer is? Like, what does that general statement even mean to you?
To me, a healthy dancer would be really loving, like loving your body in the way that it is your machine. It is like it is what you use every day, and giving it like the best, most nutritious things that you can. Treating it with respect, and then also just like using it to like fuel your passion like every day. That's for me. That's the most important thing. Is just like
Yeah.
respecting myself and like my body, like making sure that like I said, getting enough sleep, getting enough food when I need it. Like some, like you said, some days I'm hungrier than others. Like in those ones, I try and listen to that. Like just being intuitive, and then just having like an open mind and like an understanding mind towards other people and towards yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and just yeah.
Perfect point. I mean, at the end of the day, as a dancer, your body is your tool. It's what's going to get you through your career and what you have to do. So not only do you want to fuel it, but you have to respect it. And I know for you, you like food and you like to experiment with recipes and get in the kitchen. And I think that that in of itself is respecting your love for food in general, right? And for building nourishing meals and feeling good in your body. Well, Laine, it was such a pleasure speaking to you again. I
Thank
know we'll
you.
talk very soon. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
all right, thank you.
Welcome. I'll speak to you soon.
Yes.
All right. Bye.